And welcome back, everybody, to Benched with Bubba. This will be episode 12. We are brought to you by thesportsdgens.com. Check us out, thesportsdgens, on Twitter at thesportsdgens. I will once again be your host, Bubba. Find me on Twitter at BDNtrick. On episode 12, I am joined once again. He's been on Benched with Bubba previously. He's a member of the Sports DGens. Duncan, you can find him at PowerD_picks. Duncan, how are we doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. It's finally getting cold where I'm at. It's about 50 degrees outside. So
yeah, it's funny you say that. I try not to be that guy either because you're down there. You're down there in Texas, I believe, and yeah, I'm out here in California, and I laughed today because I went outside and there was actually frost out, and I was complaining, and. And I get the look from people that I'm the asshole because it's frosting and then it started raining today and I'm the asshole. So I totally understand. I was mad because I was cold and it was 58 and I was trying to golf and it was 58.
Yeah, our buddies in like Wyoming and Canada have already been getting snow for like a month. So
yeah, I saw people tweeting, complaining about slipping on black ice, and I'm sitting there going, I'm mad because I'm walking through wet grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough out here. It's tough.
It's tough.
But it's the way it works. But good. This should be fun tonight. We got all kinds of good stuff. The sports world, it's crazy. It's holiday season. It's college football season. It's NFL, college basketball. There's so much more going on, but this is going to consume Benched with Bubba, episode 12. Last episode with Doc, we got deep into it. We're going to get even deeper now because the college football playoffs, they are official. The conference title games have happened. They were a little closer than expected. Most things kind of hashed out the way most of us thought, kind of. And the Final Four stayed the same as expected. You have Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Washington. Any surprises in your Final Four, Duncan, or you kind of see it that way as well?
I mean, it's not a surprise to me. I think outside of the diehard Michigan, maybe the Penn State fans could have an argument. But I think it's the four teams. If you're gonna have four, I think those are the four that you're gonna have in. You have obviously your Alabama, you have your ACC champ, you have the Pac-12 champ. Big 12 didn't have a title game, and everyone there had two or more losses, so Big 12 was kind of automatically eliminated. And then things just kind of got tricky in the Big 10. I am a pretty firm believer that you should win your conference to have to play for a national title. But for me, that's contingent on not having the stupid rules that they currently have with the divisional setup in the conference, because you get instances like this year where you could argue the top two teams did not play in their conference championship game. And so until those rules change, I don't think Penn State and Penn State fans can be too upset at the fact that they won their conference, because they, were kind of the second or even third ranked team in their conference for most of the year.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Big Ten, and many may argue, I feel, and it's not just being biased as a Wisconsin fan, I feel it was the best conference in football this year. And the Big Ten title game was the weekend before, and it was at 9 a.m. Pacific time on ABC, and it was Michigan versus Ohio State. That was your Big Ten title game, and it was one hell of a football game, and that's what it was. And like you said, as long as the setup is the way it is, where it's unbalanced and you're not going to get the best two teams technically or whatever, however you want to phrase it, playing each other for the title game, well, that's the situation you're going to be dealt.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Penn State, I think this is the third straight podcast I've discussed Penn State now, and they should be thrilled with the situation they are in. There's nothing to be ashamed about of being the Big Ten champion, about going to the Rose Bowl. I've gone to the Rose Bowl twice. It is amazing.
It's really cool.
It is an awesome atmosphere. It's 90-something thousand people, I think, or 85,000 so it is. And it's just awesome. Awesome. And for a program that has gone through what it's gone through, and rightfully so, it did it to itself. It is it's good for what it's good for them to get back on the map the right way. And it's good to see. So they should take it, enjoy it, keep building your program. And never know.
And one more thing on Penn State. I know we're going to kind of jump to a different one real quick. And I think all Penn State fans can be beyond ecstatic about how this season went. I mean, if they're being honest and looking themselves in the mirror, that they probably would have never, ever, ever dreamed that they would even be playing in the Big Ten championship game, nonetheless winning it. And on top of the divisions being so stupid, I think teams like Penn State, they still might not have gotten in just because they did have 2 losses, and all the teams that got in were either undefeated or had 1 loss. But preseason rankings end up screwing teams over so badly. Like Penn State were nowhere near anyone's top 25. And then it took them beating Ohio State, which was an incredible win, to even, I don't even know, they might have been ranked like 23rd or 24th, but I don't even know if they were ranked before that win, and they jumped all the way to like 11.
That's a great point right there. Sorry to cut you off, but that's something worth looking into, actually, because I don't even know where they were ranked going into that game, because I know they weren't ranked preseason. There's no chance in hell. But that's a good point. Continue where you were. I
can't remember if they must have already had their 2 losses, because once they beat Ohio State, they didn't lose again, and they just kept climbing the rankings. So I want to say they were unranked, because they were probably 5-2, 6-2, something like that, and then they beat Ohio State, and they jumped all the way to whatever they were. But the preseason rankings, you would always see it in the old BCS system, where if one team starts off as 5th and the other starts off as 20th, if they both end the season with 1 loss, the 5th place team is always going to finish higher than the 20th place team. It doesn't matter who you beat. It doesn't matter how things stack up. You're not going to jump them if you start that far behind. And so if they're going to have the playoff rankings start mid-season, it only makes sense that that's when you truly start to look at rankings as a whole and totally disregard any preseason or even first 2-3 weeks rankings.
Yeah, and that's something that people have been saying for a while now, especially once the BCS started. And I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. Because it's a valid argument.
Yeah. Rankings draw ratings, though, and so those are never going to go away.
No, it's true. Because like opening weekend, even Wisconsin LSU, which that LSU team with Les Miles and the one at the end with Eddie O are 2 different teams. That I still will say to this day, if that Eddie O team plays Wisconsin at Lambeau Field, they beat Wisconsin.
I'm sorry.
It's true. I'm a Wisconsin fan. I see it.
Yeah, LSU, for as horrible as they looked under Les Miles, they were completely transformed. And they didn't score against Alabama. Not many teams do score very much against Alabama, but they held them to 10 points. That was beyond incredible, their game they played against Alabama. And I think if you look at a lot of the Vegas rankings, I think LSU is in most top 10s out there.
Yeah, LSU with Eddie O is an outstanding ball club this season. Definitely. Yeah, that's a whole nother tangent that we're talking about. But so we got that. The Final Four, it is what it is. And like a lot of people have said, it's pretty much Alabama and everybody else. But the thing is, and we've seen it in the past, especially with a lot of these really good coaches, and you can't take it away from any of them because they all are great coaches. You give these coaches a month to prepare, and we've seen a lot of crazy shit can happen. You give Urban Meyer a month. We saw how they blew the doors off Alabama before. Anything can happen. So I'm not saying Washington's going to blow the doors off Alabama. I would be beyond shocked.
That'd be a bold statement.
I'd be beyond shocked if they even win. Not blow the doors. If they just win, I'd be beyond shocked. But anything can happen. But so are you into expansion, or do you want to keep it at 4 for the playoffs?
I kind of think I kind of think you have to expand. I thought when they first went to 4, if they were going to go from 2 to anything else, why 4? Why leave out the best team in a Power 5 conference? It didn't make sense to me when they went from 2 to 4. I thought they should have gone from 2 to 6 or 2 to 8. And years like last year, and the year before, with the whole TCU Ohio State thing, and this year with both Penn State and Michigan, I guess they still did have an argument. There's just a lot of teams, a lot of really good conference champion teams that are getting left out, and so I think, honestly, I think in my ideal world, you completely take away the divisions and conferences. The best 2 teams record-wise at the end of the year match up in their title game. Each conference champion from the Power 5 schools gets an automatic berth, and then you have 3 at-larges. One could be spent on a team like Western Michigan. If there's an undefeated non-Power 5 school, I think they should almost automatically get in just because that has to be rewarded. And if there's not, then you just have 3 at-larges based on the end-of-the-year rankings.
Okay, so we're basically on the same page here. I like your format. Yours is even more in depth than what I was thinking. I really do like that idea of completely eliminating the divisions. The only thing is, I think you have to have the divisions because the way these things are so screwed up already, unless they really fine tune the schedules, because it's the only way they keep the rivalries. That's the problem.
Yeah, they keep the rivalries, and then the big teams will never do it, but eliminating the bye weeks that they have against like D3 schools or whatever.
Like the week D3 schools.
Yeah, and if you actually put another, even if they keep the divisions, even just one more conference game could end up making a big difference in the rankings at the end of the year.
Yeah, because I'd love it to be 8 teams, and because like they have arguments where, I understand some of the arguments. Like, okay, we can't expect our fans to keep traveling to fill the stadiums and this. I get a lot of that. It's tough to keep them traveling. Well, okay, the opening weekend, you get a home game. You don't have to travel. It's not a neutral site game. If you're one of the top 4 seeds, it's a home game now. So there you go. You're rewarded. But yes, the top 5 power conferences, you're in. The 3 remainings, one goes to the non-Power 5 undefeated, like a Western Michigan or whatever, if they qualified. I like that a lot. And then you go from there, like you could have had like a Michigan or something along those lines. Yeah. I like that a lot because you can't tell me that if you put Michigan in an 18 playoff right now, they couldn't have a chance to run the table.
No, I don't think you can tell anyone that.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good football to be played there, and I sure as hell would love to see it. If anything, just give me 60 more minutes of Jim Harbaugh going ape shit on the sidelines. I think it would be amazing because that last Ohio State game was priceless.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Even the post game. Did you see the post game?
I didn't stick around. I've seen what are they called, GIFs?
Yeah,
and Vines, but
yeah.
No, I didn't actually watch it.
You know what's amazing, and it must be lucky because it's him. Most coaches, if they do that, get fined. I never heard of him getting fined at all for that.
I don't think he did, unless it was just talked about.
Yeah, because a lot of guys would have gotten fined so much for those comments, but not Jim Harbaugh.
No.
That's impressive. All right. So besides, the playoffs and the major games, there are only 75 college bowl games or something. I know I'm off, but I'm just off by a few probably. We don't need to go over all of them, but do you have any that are catching your attention that are standing out as ones that are like must-see TV for you?
Yeah, I was actually looking at a couple of those the other day. I think let's see, what was one of the ones that I was really looking forward to watching? Oh my gosh, I'm completely blanking right now. Oh, I'm really excited to see. I don't know what the bowl is, but LSU against Louisville. I think that could be really fun.
Citrus Bowl in Orlando.
Yes, yeah, that's it. In Orlando, I think, yeah, just kind of how we talked about. I think those are two of most people's. If they're not top 10, they're top 15 for sure. And so it's a big time matchup. And I think, I think Orgeron can have an immediate validation of him getting the job if they go get that win against Louisville, because they're going against probably potentially like the Heisman winner. But that's gonna be a really good bowl. I'm really looking forward to that one. And then another one that I am looking forward to is actually your team, Wisconsin. I'm really looking forward to the Cotton Bowl.
Yep.
For Western Michigan, Wisconsin. A lot of people think it's going to be an absolute demolition. I'm not so sure.
Nope.
I think Western Michigan can put up a really good fight. I think they've proved that while the MAC's not one of the top conferences, even going undefeated in a subpar conference is something that's not easy to do. It's just not easy to go undefeated no matter who you play.
No, and the MAC
and
the MAC is like the Big Ten Junior. They play us every year.
Yeah, and I think Wisconsin showed a vulnerability to the pass, and so I know Western Michigan can be a run-heavy team, but they also got a guy that can throw it, and so I just think it's going to be a pretty good matchup. And then obviously, the two teams that had a Penn State and USC in the Rose Bowl. Probably everyone's going to talk about that one, and then another one. The last one I'll talk about is definitely going to be the Sugar Bowl. It's definitely going to be Auburn against Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is one of those teams that has a really good argument for an 8-team expansion, because I think they should be playing in a playoff setup. And Auburn, when they made that change, they really started playing well. And I do think Oklahoma's going to win. I think Big Game Bob finally gets over that bad reputation, but I think that's going to be actually a really fun one to watch.
Yeah, that should be exciting. The Rose Bowl, definitely looking forward to that one. I will be drunk at a bar in Dallas because I purchased my tickets to the Cotton Bowl today. So I'll be flying in the day before for that one.
Oh, nice.
That'll be happening. So I'll probably watch Wisconsin lose in person. But some of the ones prior to those that are kind of intriguing, I'm looking forward to. I might try to swing it because I can probably get tickets super cheap up here in Santa Clara, that Foster Farms Bowl, Indiana versus Utah. I want to see how Indiana bounces back without their coach now, because Indiana, I was talking with Doc about this. I was really big on Indiana. They've been making really good strides, looking really solid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to see how they operate without Wilson, who is apparently a world-class piece of shit. So I'm curious to see that.
About that.
Well, all the reports that have come out about that deal. And then Utah, they are either hot or cold. But if they're hot, that could be a really exciting game. And then
they are pretty cold, yeah.
And then the Cactus Bowl, Baylor, Boise State. I am very curious to see because Baylor's new head coach already is talking a lot of talk, and I'm quite curious to see how that one plays out.
Yep.
But there's a lot of interesting early games as well. But bowl season, there'll be a lot of talk about bowl season coming up. Tons and tons and tons of bowl games, all kicking off. Today is this 10 days away. We will have bowl games starting in 10 days, and then every day to whet your appetite. Can't wait for that.
Yep.
All right. This Saturday night, New York.
Last one. It's not a big name bowl, but Memphis and Western Kentucky. Looking forward to that one. I love points, especially in bowl games, and I think we are going to get a show there.
The over/under like 145.
At least 85.
That is going to be like Tecmo Bowl.
Yep.
That'll be. They weren't the two that faced off in the Bahamas Bowl, was it? That got in the fight, or is that Western Kentucky USF?
It might. It was one of those two teams. Yeah, it was one of those two teams. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen this year, but that was entertaining. All right, this Saturday night, the Heisman Trophy is getting handed out, and it might be the worst set of finalists I have ever seen. Just because I say that only because the one everyone's saying is going to win, to me, is the biggest joke I've ever seen. And I'm pretty sure you're on board with my opinions on this. And most people I talk to are on board with this as well. But right now, it's finalists are Lamar Jackson of Louisville, Dede Westbrook, Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma, Jabril Peppers from Michigan, and I am blanking on the last one. Deshaun Watson. Clemson. How am I forgetting that? Right now, everyone is saying Lamar Jackson is doing it, and I don't know how, because he was horrible against horrible against Duke. He lost to Navy, I believe, and no, not Navy. But more importantly, lest anyone forget, his last game of the season. The last memory anyone should have of this man that you want to hoist the greatest individual trophy you can have in college football, as a 27-point home favorite to his rival Kentucky Wildcats, who is, let me remind you, a basketball program, not a football program. He lost at home. Cannot be the Heisman Trophy winner.
That might have been the SEC's biggest win this year, was Kentucky beating Louisville. And I'm totally on board. I mean, it's one of those things where I think Heisman winners get crowned late October, early November. And it sucks because 3 lost quarterbacks, I want to say since like 1990. I think Tim Tebow's the only one to ever win the Heisman. And I mean, I think he deserved to win it the year that he did when he had 3 losses, but I don't look at Lamar Jackson as a Heisman Trophy winner. But I also don't look at any of the other finalists as Heisman Trophy winners either.
That's the problem.
So it's I think Watson has the best case against him. I don't think I would ever even consider voting for a Deshaun Watson, but as a one loss quarterback of the, what are they now, the number 2 ranked team in the country. He's got to be up there in consideration at least. Struggled real bad early. They almost lost to Troy. They should have lost to NC State. If a kicker would have made a 27-yard field goal, they would have lost to NC State. Almost gave it away to Virginia Tech. He did make some plays to keep them in it, big plays, but almost gave it away to Virginia Tech. And it's just, none of the resumes scream Heisman winner. Especially not Jabril Peppers. I don't care what people say about him. He ranked horribly in the Big Ten amongst all statistics. Like that one play that probably got him on the voting with that one-handed pick might have been the only good play he made all year. I have no idea how he won Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, and I don't know how he's getting invited to New York. I have no idea.
Yep. It's bad. It's almost like they need to give this. They almost need to rename this year's award. It's like the top highlight of the year award, because all Lamar Jackson did. I'm not trying to say he's not a good football player, because he is, but he was just such a human highlight reel, especially early in the season, and so everyone remembers that. But they forget.
Yeah,
he was shut down by Houston on national television on a Thursday night. Do people forget on primetime television he was shut down
on ESPN?
Yeah, it's like that's the time. That's the night you win the Heisman.
Yeah,
you go out there on the road and you put on a show. That's how you win the Heisman.
Yeah, and
that's how.
Yeah, that's when you win the Heisman. You win the Heisman by, I think Houston was still ranked pretty highly at that point. You win the Heisman by putting Houston out. You win the Heisman by, they should being a keyword. They didn't, but they should have beaten Clemson if that guy knew where the first down was and would have dove. They would have beaten Clemson. But you win the game against Clemson. You win the game against Houston, and then you don't lose to Kentucky, and that's how you win the Heisman. And
Kentucky was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I mean, people's minds were made up when he had, I want to say through 4 weeks, he had more total touchdowns than incomplete passes. And so I think that's when people's minds were made up. And since then, he just hasn't done anything to help his case. But he was, you couldn't find his games to watch because they weren't on TV. But when you saw highlights on SportsCenter, you'd see him doing crazy things in the beginning of the year. And that's why he's going to win.
Yeah, no, and that's the crazy part about it, like, is he's going to win, and I just don't get it. But maybe it's that kind of year. Doc made a great argument for Hurts from Alabama.
I think he should be the Heisman winner, and I don't think no one, maybe except for Doc, will agree with me. But when you're their defense obviously is probably one of the greatest defenses ever assembled. But if you're an undefeated quarterback, I don't care if you hand the ball off every single play. If you're an undefeated quarterback, you've got to be in the conversation.
Yeah, and it took me a while, but I sat and listened to his argument. He reeled off a lot of valid things, and then he had me by the end, and then I've looked into it since then, and I'm on board. I totally agree. I looked even more. I always screw up the guy's name. It's Cole Kubelik or whatever. He's sideline reporter for ESPN, SEC. He's the one that interviewed Tom Herman pregame and got busted for asking questions. I think he tweeted today or yesterday that Alabama's running backs at a whole have rushed the ball 200 or 300 times, 250 or 300 times this season. Jalen Hurts has rushed like 120. So he has like a third of their carry.
He was maybe not as many total touchdowns that Tebow had when he was at Florida, but he also the thing about Hurts is he didn't put up crazy stats. I mean, he didn't, but he didn't ever lose games for his team. Like, he didn't do dumb things in a critical moment, and that's what Lamar Jackson's done. That's what Baker Mayfield did. Watson really didn't make terrible decisions, but I mean, he doesn't. He's not gonna blow you away. His highlight reels isn't gonna make you just go, "Oh my gosh, this guy's freaking incredible." But at the end of the day, he was undefeated, and he didn't really have terrible turnovers in bad spots.
He did what was asked of him, and people forget he's a true freshman.
True freshman, yeah.
And he did it in the SEC. I mean, the fact he didn't even get an invite shocked me.
Yeah,
but
he probably would have finished last. He probably would have finished last in the voting, but you got to take him over Jabril Peppers. You have to.
Or at least one of the Oklahoma guys, because they're just going to split. They're just going to split votes anyways.
Yeah, and I mean, a team that doesn't even make it into the playoffs, you can't have two of those players on the Heisman ballot.
I don't even. I'd love to know how that balloting process even got taken care of. I'm just lost on that whole thing.
Yeah, if you're gonna go off stats, freaking get Mahomes from Texas Tech in there. That's a Heisman quarterback, if any of them are.
Yeah, or hell, let's Mahomes stats. Good God, but or what about Pumphrey from San Diego State?
Yeah. Or the Western Kentucky quarterback, or a player on Western Michigan. They're undefeated too. Somebody.
Or like I was telling Doc a week ago, get Foreman, the running back from Texas. He has over 2,000 yards rushing.
Oh, he
is a beast.
He should be the top running back taken, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, not top. Sorry, not ahead of Fournette. Because I just saw him.
One of the top.
Yeah. He's a first round talent. I mean, running backs usually come in waves, but he's no Fournette. Sorry, I completely forgot that he was going to the draft, but he's up there. He's good.
Yeah, no, that's how I brought him up last week as a dark horse that people need to pay attention to, because that guy week in and week out for a Texas team was amazing.
Yeah, that team was awful, and he was a really, really good.
Everybody knew he was getting the ball, and it did not matter. But okay, I think we could sit and do this all day, but which we probably could. But let's get going. Not only college football, but we will go NFL. And one of the big reasons we brought Duncan on this podcast is his team is running away with the NFC. So I wanted to give him a chance to talk about his boys. How about them Cowboys? Duncan?
How about them Cowboys? Not as Bayless says it, because he is one of the worst people out there. He is not a Cowboys fan. I will I do not think he's a Cowboys fan, but how about them Cowboys?
Yeah, there you
Um,
go.
they I did not see this coming. I think most Cowboys fans are going to be realistic and say they just did not see this coming. I thought Dak would do pretty well just because people forget they didn't have the best year last year, but 2 years ago, Mississippi State was 3 yards away from beating Alabama and retaining the number one ranked team in the nation behind Dak Prescott. They were, I think there was fourth and goal on the 3, maybe fourth and goal on the 2 to win the game against Alabama, and they got stopped. But that would have been, I think they would have been 9-0, and they would have obviously been the number one ranked team. And so, last year, a lot of players from that team left, and Mississippi State wasn't that good, but Dak still put up numbers. And so I was fairly confident that he could at least, Romo is going to be out 8 to 10 weeks. And so I thought he could at least go 4-4, 5-3, something like that. But this has just been beyond anything that I could have ever hoped or asked for.
And the crazy part is he might have a hiccup here or there, but I don't see it getting too out of hand anytime soon. Do you? What's your realistic expectations? Not postseason, just the rest of the season. The next through week 17. What's your realistic expectations the rest of the season?
For the
regular season.
So I've been for a few weeks now, in a couple of the group chats that I'm in, I've been saying that Dallas is going to go 13-3. Even before they were 9-1, 10-1, 11-1. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I thought they were going to go 13-3. Okay. I think that they are going to beat the Giants this weekend. That something's just off about that team. They lost. They were 8-3 and then they lost to go 8-4. But as an 8-3 team, I can't remember a worse 8-3 team in the NFL than I've seen from the Giants this year. Something's just weird about them. Like I don't know how they won as many games as they did. And my bold prediction is that they are going to finish 8-8 and not make the playoffs. But that being said, I do think we're going to beat the Giants. I think the home game against the Bucs is actually going to be a tough game. The Bucs have been road warriors, and Winston has been able to do. If he's not playing a top 5 defense, he does pretty well. And Dallas doesn't have a top 5 defense, so I think they're going to be able to put up points. I do think they'll be able to win that game, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than most people think, and probably what the spread is going to be. And then after that, so I think they'll be 13-1, and then I think they're going to actually end up resting a lot of people the last 2 weeks. I know they say they're not going to. Jerry and all them say they're just going to let them play, but when you have 2 rookies who have carried the team, you've been having injuries even across the offensive line. You've lost 1 starter earlier in the year. Tyron Smith was out for a little bit. They don't want that unit to lose anyone going forwards. They want the offensive line to be healthy. And Dez has had his history with injuries, and so you don't want to risk Dez getting hurt. And so they may not, but I kind of hope that they rest some players. I don't know what you do with Romo. Maybe you play him those last 2 games, but then if he absolutely lights it up, that's a whole new argument. So I think Dak is strong enough and tough enough not to get hurt, even if you're resting other players. Or even you can even play Sanchez. I mean, if you just don't want to completely take the risk with Romo going for like 6 touchdowns and making a case for himself, I do think they're going to play Dak. But then I think some of the players on the defense, like they already have so many people out, and I don't think they could take any more injuries, to be honest, especially not someone like Sean Lee or Justin Durant or anyone like that. So I think they're going to finish 13-3. Don't know how they'll get there. I think they're going to go win-win, loss-loss to finish, though.
See, the defense I could see resting in someone like the Des Bryants, Wittens of the world and whatnot, maybe even Zeke, because you lose Zeke and Huta. That could be
and you still have Alfred Morris and some other really good running backs behind Zeke. And so you're not really you're losing a lot because it's Zeke, but Alfred Morris, I think, had the most rushing yards his first 3 years in the NFL. So
yeah, true. But yeah, my biggest question was, how much do you risk playing Tony going off, and then you let that Dallas media take over and just let the birds chirp, given the press conference Tony Romo had was one of the most professional things I have ever witnessed. the most class act things I have ever seen an athlete do when he came out and literally just put it out there that it's Dak's team. I'm here to help. Like, that was amazing. Like, no player has ever done, at least that I've witnessed, has come out and done that. It had to be great for Dak to see, because you can say all that behind the scenes, but until a player does that, the media is not going to shut up. So that was amazing. So given if Tony were to go off, Tony could easily just do something like that again. But
yeah,
the Dallas media, ESPN, all that stuff would run with that.
Yeah, and that I think the most impressive and probably the hardest thing about that press conference was that he shouldn't have been put in that situation to begin with. There should have been Jerry or Jason or someone should have had that press conference already and said, "Look, Dak's our guy. We're going to go forward, Dak." They just kept, "Oh, I don't know. We'll see. We're going to ride the hot hand, blah blah blah." And then I think Romo at the end of the day, obviously, super super hard for him to do, because any guy who's been the starting quarterback for almost 10 years doesn't want to lose that job. And so I think that was one of the hardest things that he's ever had to do. But I think he could just, it's a rookie, and they probably listen to more things than veterans do. They probably read their Twitter timeline when veterans don't. They probably listen to beat reporters' reports when they get mentioned. And so I think you could just tell it was going to weigh on him. And so he just did what he had to do, and very professional. You could see the emotion that he didn't want to be there. He did not want to be doing that press conference, but he knew he had to.
Yeah.
And so I think even if they do play Romo, maybe the media takes over, but I think everyone at the end of the day knows that come playoff time, it's going to be Dak that's going to be under center.
No, that's true. That's true. Okay, the year Zeke's having, it's crazy. I'm pretty sure, unless something insane happens, and I hope it doesn't, he's going to get the Rookie of the Year. Does he double dip and get MVP as well?
I mean, that's tough. I think he's obviously the clear favorite to win Rookie of the Year. I don't think Dak should be overlooked in that conversation either, because of how good Zeke is and has been.
That's what I'm wondering. They might do the MVP to Zeke and the Rookie of the Year to Dak. Do a little.
Yeah, or I mean, they could. Who knows what's going to happen? But I mean, just not even the stats, because I mean, stats never tell the whole story. But watching the way that Dak has played in big pressure situations, gotten sacked 3rd and 17, and he throws like an 18-yard pass for first down. It's just been, he's gotten his protection, he's audibled, and it's just been really, really, really impressive. And while he probably won't win Rookie of the Year and he probably won't win MVP, I think he should be a serious candidate for both. I do think Zeke is going to win the Rookie of the Year, and then in terms of MVP, guys like Matt Ryan, quarterbacks are usually going to have a better argument, I think, for MVP than running backs will. So like Matt Ryan, if the Raiders finish 13-3 or better, I think Carr would win over Zeke. If they fall off at all, I think Zeke has it over Carr. But if the Falcons win out and Ryan plays well, if the Raiders either win out or finish 13-3, I think Carr's going to get it. Or even someone, I think someone who's probably having a top 3 season this year is Matt Stafford. He has been incredible, and he may, he's been crazy. The Lions have, except for last week, they trailed in the 4th quarter of every game, and they're winning their division. And so I think he's just having a tremendous season as well. I think he's touchdown interception ratio is like 25-4 or 25-5 or something. It's pretty incredible.
Very un-Matt Stafford-like, that's for darn sure.
Yeah. And he's fast. All right. He's scrambled for some first downs, and he's outrun linebackers.
Yeah, he's looking crazy good this year.
I think he's cut some weight because he was kind of chubby the last couple of years, and I think he's slimmed down a little bit.
Yes, I think you're right. I think he figured something out in the offseason, and it has changed. All right. Okay, so 13-3 regular season likely gives your Cowboys home field advantage. Give me the postseason prediction?
Even during this big Dallas run, I kind of always have thought it's Seattle's to lose this year in the NFC. Losing Earl Thomas doesn't help. Cam Chancellor's still kind of banged up, and so if those two guys are out, I may change my mind. But I do think, even still, it's Seattle's to lose. I think it's going to be Seattle Dallas in the NFC Championship game, and even if it's in Dallas, I think Seattle will just have. I mean, they have the experience. They have. I mean, their defense is just absolutely incredible. They have Russell Wilson. It looks like Rawls is finally starting to come into his own. Coming off injury, he looks great. The offensive line is a worry, but matched up against Dallas, they don't have a pass rush. They have the opposite of a pass rush, and so that's not really a concern. And so I think matchup-wise, Seattle just matches up really well against anyone, but especially against Dallas. And so I think I do think if it came to it, Seattle would probably win the division. But that being said, they do have to get past potentially someone like a Detroit or a Green Bay, or if somehow Atlanta doesn't win the division, they could end up finding a way to get matched up with Atlanta. They could still get matched up with some pretty good teams that could challenge them. And so it could be Seattle, Dallas. It probably should be, but I guess we'll never know until it happens.
Okay, so you're looking at potentially Seattle, Dallas, NFC title games, what you're thinking, and then you're thinking for some other playoff teams in the NFC, maybe Atlanta, Detroit. What two other teams are you looking at there?
So I am looking at. Let me find my notes real quick from that. I'm looking at obviously Dallas to win the NFC East. Detroit, I think their advantage isn't gonna. I think they're gonna be able to hold on to win the NFC North. I do think Atlanta does end up winning the NFC South. Kind of looking at their schedule. They get the Rams and the 49ers are their next two games, and then the Panthers and the Saints to finish off. And so I think they can find a way to finish that 3-1 and go 10-6. And the Bucks, they have the Saints, the Cowboys, the Saints again. So they're probably going to go 2-2, whereas the Falcons were going to go 3-1. So I think they're going to hold on. Obviously, Seattle, I think have already won their division. So I think the wild card teams are going to be the Bucks and the Packers. I think the Giants are going to find a way to blow it, and I think Green Bay is going to find a way to finish 9-7 like the Bucks, and the Giants are going to finish 8-8.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I can see it. I can get on board with that. What do you got in the AFC?
AFC, I'm pretty sure the Patriots have already wrapped up their division. If they haven't, it's going to come soon. So obviously the Patriots are going to win the AFC East. I do still think the Steelers are going to win the AFC North. I think they're tied right now with the Ravens, but I think they're going to hold on. I do think the Ravens are going to get into the playoffs. I think both those teams are going to get into the playoffs, but I think the Steelers are going to win the division. The AFC South is going to be fun. 3 teams at 6-6, but even when the Colts were like 2.5 games back and Andrew Luck was currently out, I always had the Colts coming back to win that division. I think that's just going to happen. And then out west, that's going to be tough. I thought Denver were going to actually beat the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago, and then it would have been a lot more interesting. But I think whoever wins the game tomorrow night in that division wins it. Win and even up the record. I think they own the tiebreakers, and I think they would go on to win the division. If the Raiders win, obviously they'd have a 2-game advantage with 3 games to play. Probably not going to blow it.
Yeah,
it's gonna be crazy because I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore are both going to get in. So I think that would take the Broncos or Chiefs just epic collapse to not make it. And I kind of think it could happen. But it's going to be tough. I could see both AFC West teams getting both the wild card spots.
Yeah, I see the Chiefs and the Raiders getting in. The Broncos are the wild card for the wild card, if I say it the right way there, for that 6th spot. Because their quarterback situation just scares the crap out of me. It's just so
Yeah.
bad and so inconsistent that I know the defense is so good, but my goodness.
Yeah.
Leaves
If
it wide open.
if Lynch has an extended run at quarterback, the Broncos are not going to make it. 0% chance the Broncos make it if Lynch stays in. If Simeon's able to come back, some people don't like him. I think he's actually done pretty well this year. I think they find a way to win 2 more games to finish 10-6 if Simeon's the quarterback.
And if they get to 10-6, they'll get in. Yep.
Yeah,
Most
because
definitely.
that would mean both Baltimore and Pittsburgh would have to go 3-1 or better to finish out. I don't think they're both going to do that.
No, because for one, I think they play each other at least once, so that knocks one loss right there. So that means
so
they'll have 3-0 no matter what the
yeah.
other time. So yeah.
So Baltimore has New England, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati to finish. They're not going to go 3-1 in that stretch. That's just not going to happen. So I rescind my previous statement as saying the Ravens are going to get in. I don't think they will.
Yeah, there you go. There's your sign. All right. We got a little more to go. Our college basketball is kicking about a little over a month into the season. Duncan is a big college basketball guy, especially when it comes to Duke. Coach K and Duke. They're starting to slowly get healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Big win last night, I believe it was. Early thoughts on Duke's start to the season?
I think the biggest takeaway has been Luke Kennard. That guy has been absolutely incredible. He's got to be averaging close to 30 points a game, and that's with the new freshman coming in the last 2 games, and with he was a jump shooter last year, but he looks a lot bigger. Like, it looks like he put in some work in the offseason in the weight room, because I think his arms have doubled in size. Like, he's gotten big and strong, and so they're winning with Grayson Allen not being 100%. I think he's been hurt the whole season, but just playing kind of because he has to. Like, if he doesn't play, especially when all 3 of their freshmen were coming in, they just didn't have a point guard. And so I think he just had to, sack up and get through it. And he hasn't been playing very well. He's been struggling, but, the team just being, if you can send a guy like Matt Jones or, Emil Jefferson to the bench for a few minutes and not have to worry when other people come in to replace them, that's pretty good. And so they're going to be, I think they're going to be just fine. I think they're definitely going to get a 1 seed. I don't know if it'll be the 1 seed, just because I don't know health-wise. Maybe some players have to sit some games out and they maybe lose a couple, but I definitely think they're the team to beat this year. I wasn't sure coming in, when you bring in like a Calipari style 3-4 big freshman names, how it's going to turn out, but I think it's going to turn out pretty well. And so I think they're going to be just fine.
I know they've been having so many guys hurt, and they're slowly getting them back. I believe Giles is the big man that they're waiting for now.
Mm-hmm.
When is he due back?
I think it's still a few weeks away.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know if he's actually going to play this year.
Exactly. I keep reading reports.
I mean, you just never know. I think he could play when ACC play starts up, but
yeah,
I mean, you could potentially risk millions upon millions upon millions of dollars if you re-injure yourself and it's bad. And so he may not play. I hope he does, because I think he's going to be a stud, because he is a stud. But even with the potential top 3 draft pick out, I think Allen will be healthy enough. I think it's some sort of toe or plantar or something in his foot that's going on right now, so I think he'll get over that. Tatum's starting to look pretty good. He was pulling some honestly some NBA moves last night in that win. It was some of the moves he was putting down on the low post were just absolutely incredible. Jefferson's a stud. He's had a double-double almost every game this year. Allen will get healthy. Kennard's playing out of his skin. And, I mean, if Giles does come back, or if that other big freshman they have in gets better. If you have a guy like Matt Jones coming off the bench, that's not too bad.
So Kennard was going bananas last night. I was seeing it all over Twitter. There's vines. There's all kinds of good stuff about him. And I wasn't able to watch the game. And I'm basically living it through Twitter. And I'm seeing he's Mr. Trash Talking 101. First question I have, is that what he usually does, or is this like a first-time offense?
You're talking about Luke?
Yeah. Is he usually a trash talker?
Yeah, I think it's posted. I forget who posted. It was something on Twitter that like Luke Kennard has taken over the white guy that everyone likes to hate on Duke's mantle. I don't know if that was out of necessity because Allen was hurt and he couldn't really show off, and Luke's like, well, I guess I got to do it. And after he started doing it, he just started talking mad shit. But it's pretty funny to see. I mean, you have the legacy, the Leitners and the Reddicks, and now the Allens and everyone. And
okay, that's what I was wondering because I've never seen his face on the TV before doing this. I'm like, is this the new guy that I have to hate? Is this?
Yeah, you gotta. There's always a white guy on Duke that you have to hate.
Exactly, JJ Redick. I've seen Grayson Allen everywhere. I know these faces. I've never seen this one, and I'm trying to figure out: is it for the next 3 to 4 months? Is this my guy?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm just checking.
Yeah,
I'm good with it. I just need to get to I just need to make sure I learn how to spell his name correctly when I tweet it out over and over again.
I think it's 2 N's. I'm pretty sure.
2 N's. Okay. Perfect. All right, so you got Duke as a 1 seed. I know, talking to a lot of guys, there's the last few years, and especially this year, a lot of people are already saying there's going to be a lot of parity, a lot of really good teams, and a lot can happen. Like, who knows what's going to happen? You got your Kentuckys that they're going to be there in the end.
Yeah.
But who else do you think's going to make that Final Four run with the Dukes and Kentuckys?
As impossible as it is to probably win back-to-back, I think you got to put Villanova in that conversation. I think they're at least going to make an Elite Eight run again, possibly to probably getting back into the Final Four. So I think it's going to be a Duke, a Kentucky, a Villanova. Obviously, you could say North Carolina. I don't know if they have the normal amount of like NBA style talent that they have in the past. I think they would have enough to be super competitive and probably make a deep run. I'm not sure about a Final Four run. And then I think there's going to be a really, really surprising team, as per usual, make the Final Four this year. I really like Purdue. I think they have put a really good team together. I want to say their only 2 losses were to Nova and maybe Louisville by like 3 and 4 points or something. And so I think I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. I think maybe one of the smaller schools, like maybe St. Mary's, they're always a team that like to cover spreads, which is good for most of us. But I think they actually have a pretty good team put together to make a decent enough run. And then, outside of that, I think it's going to be your normal big name teams. Oh, and Virginia. I think Virginia is going to be just as good as they were last year. I don't think they lost too much, and that defense is just absolutely suffocating.
Very nice. Very nice. We'll wrap it up with this one last college basketball question. Early on, and a lot of teams early in the season, because losses don't really affect you too much now, so they're working on things, one might say.
Mm-hmm.
What's kind of maybe the biggest disappointment you've seen, that like more surprising disappointment that you think might actually be more of a long-lasting thing that they're not going to bounce back from, that you've seen so far in the season?
Long-lasting disappointment.
Like maybe it's a team like you thought was going to be good, and then they started out so bad that they're really not going to be good, or something like that.
Well, okay. In terms of that, I didn't think they were going to be good, but UConn is just an absolute travesty right now. I mean, that program has completely and totally tanked, and it's only taken them 2 years to do it. It's kind of sad how far they've fallen, actually, because it's just not good. It's not good at all, and they're terrible. But outside of that, I think maybe amongst some of like the ranked teams as well, I think it may not be terrible, but I think a team like Florida, they competed decently against Duke, but I think Florida is they'll be all right because they're in the SEC. They'll lose a couple times to Kentucky, may have close games against A&M or something, but I think a team like Florida is really going to struggle. I could see a first-round exit from the tournament from a Florida-type team. I think Iowa State is going to struggle a little more than normal. They lost some good players last year, and I just don't think they're going to quite live up to the billing, like the top 10 rankings that they've been showing out over the last few years. And then outside of that, Baylor has been incredible. They're probably the most surprising team so far this year, but I don't see it lasting too long, especially come Big 12 play, just because the Big 12 is the most loaded I've ever seen in a college basketball conference. I mean, you can look at a team like Texas. They may be the worst team in the Big 12.
Wow.
Like, that's how good the Big 12. Texas Tech. I mean, that's how good the Big 12 is this year, that a team like Texas could be the worst team in the Big 12.
So the Big 12, it's that loaded this year, but is Kansas still that far above everybody else? Or is their run going to finally come to an end?
I think they are still pretty much that far ahead of everyone else. Oklahoma's gonna challenge. Baylor's gonna be really tough. West Virginia, I think they won by like 70 points tonight, so they're gonna be a tough team. And then even the smaller schools, like a road games at TCU or at Texas Tech, those aren't going to be easy wins for Kansas. And so, while I think talent-wise they're still kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the most competitive league in the country, they're probably going to finish with more losses than normal this year. But I still do think they win at least the Big 12 regular season. Maybe not the Big 12 tournament, but I still do think they win the Big 12 regular season.
Well, that is outstanding. Good to hear. Well, Duncan, we covered a lot: college football, NFL, college basketball. Mm-hmm. Anything else you'd like to add before we call it a night?
Man, that was a lot of content.
Yeah, that was good stuff. A lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that we didn't talk about, and I'm sure you're going to do this on some episodes coming up, would be like MLB offseason stuff.
It's been bananas.
I don't know too much about other teams, but I do know the Astros got some good players coming in. I do still think they need one more pitcher. I don't know who it's going to be, but I do think they need one more to be a serious contender. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and I will have you back on here. We'll shoot for sometime maybe in January when the playoffs. We'll talk Cowboys playoffs, maybe some college basketball conference tourney stuff, and maybe by then your Astros will be ready for spring training, and we'll get things rocking and rolling, and we'll do it again. How's that sound?
Sounds good. They got Charlie Morton, but I think they're going to need more than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too confident if that's the final move. I appreciate it, Duncan. Thanks for joining. And everybody, that was Duncan. You can find him on Twitter at PowerD_picks. Check us out at TheSportsDgens, TheSportsDgens.com. This was Bench with Bubba, episode 12. We will catch you next time. Thanks again.